Hi there, and welcome to another little comment from me, Rich Scott, here at Democracy Theater. Um, so, Tim Pool was on trigonometry. Tim Pool is not one of the new media figures that interest me, and certainly not after it came out that he was part of a handful of people that received upwards of $10 million from Russians to spew Russian, pro Russian talking points. He did become famous, whatever you want to call it, known to the broader public during the Occupy Wall Street period. But to me, he very quickly showed himself to not be serious, to be a kind of, not to be a serious journalist, but to be kind of a trend follower instead, and a provocateur, kind of just looking for a grift. So didn't really pay attention to him, wasn't going to listen to the podcast. Uh, but I really do like the trigonometry guys. So whatever. I said, well, let's see if there was something. And then I got in about 22 minutes in, and then Tim again was part of a handful of people who received $10 million from Russia. Is here? Well, I'll let you judge.
Is like we had Charlemagne on the show earlier. We talked to Andrew Schultz as well, and they both made an interesting point, I thought. And this comes back to the fact that you used to cover, your career, from what I understand, really started by covering the Occupy Wall Street movement. Yeah. Right. Started in a big way. And what they were saying is, I think most people underestimate the impact of income and wealth inequality in this country on the way people feel, in that it is getting really expensive. Life is getting a lot harder. Mm-hmm. The American dream is becoming.
And I really want to do more about Andrew Schultz because he's been saying some really interesting things. And I've been taking steps away from the Rogan sphere, but I think I kind of commented on that already. But go on.
Much more of a dream than a reality for many, many, many people. I think I remember I was talking to Chris Williamson about this, and he made the point that the average American has like less than $800 in savings. They're constantly on the verge of bankruptcy. One health issue, they're going to be screwed. That anger that you're talking about, do you think it comes from that reality, or do you think there's something else going on?
I would say it technically does. It's the perception of the wealth inequality. It's the perception of the American dream.
Wait, there's a perception of wealth inequality? There's a perception? It's not a reality?
The American dream still exists. It always has. The American dream was never that you were going to get a 4-year degree and then make hundreds of thousands of dollars and go on vacation.
Yes, it was. The American dream today is.
The American dream was that you could move here from the Philippines, live in a 1-bedroom apartment with your 3 kids and wife, sharing literally just the one room. You would work 16-hour shifts every single day, but your children would advance upward in class.
Now, put this in context with Trump telling us how many dolls we should buy for our kids and how many pencils. Now, this is the you shall own nothing and be happy, right? But listen to him.
Whereas the home country you came from, you couldn't do that. It was a country where a kid from the inner city with not even 2 nickels to rub together could look the president in the eye and say, "Go yourself, Mr. President," and nothing could be done about it. The American dream.
That wasn't the American dream. That was just rights in the Constitution. We didn't have kings. It wasn't the American dream. The American dream was always economic mobility, that you could move between classes. And obviously you wanted to make a better life for your kids, but you could make a better life for you.
Dream very, very much is still there, but the perception of it is going away. Largely because
that's not true. We don't even have the highest income mobility on that index anymore. Last time I looked at that's a few years ago, it was freaking Denmark.
Of our cultural failings. This all ties back to the emergence of social media, the exploitation of algorithms, and the perception that was created among the younger generation that America sucks, when in fact it doesn't. These people have never been to other countries. They don't understand what it's like.
I've probably been to as many countries and lived and experienced other countries more than this clown has. And America does suck compared to other industrialized nations on every metric. On every metric that we use to measure those kind of things, America sucks.
And so they live in this country where they perceive everything through the lens of a largely leftist hatred algorithm, which was intended to make money. And now they think everything's bad. They think it's getting worse.
Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you feel. Don't believe what you experience. Are you hearing this fucking George Orwell 1984 truth speak?
They blame the wealthy for their problems. They don't realize these class mobility and opportunity doesn't exist in other countries. That being said, it's not made better by our economic crises with the food shortages, egg prices, gas prices. That certainly plays a large role.
Property prices as well.
Well, this is what
Absolutely.
I'm going to say. I'm not an American, so I'm just exploring the argument. You push back on this, but I would imagine a part of the American dream is not just that your kids would do better, which, by the way, they're probably not going to, in both in this country and in our country, right? That sense of the next generation, like only 30% of Americans, according to the latest poll, think that their children would do better.
But a Filipino family's children?
So here's what I'm saying.
Are we Filipinos or I'm fucking American? What is this shit? Why are we always looking down to compare ourselves? Why are we never looking up? Why are we not comparing ourselves to the better countries when you are one of these shit faces?
Right. But I think there is also a real material dimension to it, which is it's not just about your kids doing better. There are certain markers that people would think are signifiers of them doing better, which is they own their own house, right? Which means that they can pass wealth down to the next generation. And they have the opportunity basically to have kids, right? That is unavailable to a lot of people for purely financial reasons.
I disagree.
Okay, tell me more.
I disagree.
The people who made this country, the founders of this country, the conquerors of this continent, got on boats where I believe around 20% of the people on those boats died. When they landed, they arrived on barren shores. They knew they were sailing to barren shores. And after that, a majority of them died. And those who survived the winter, either through sheer grit, luck, or the assistance of Native Americans in some instances, were able to then have children, and a lot of that grit was passed down. This is why I see the difference between the European perspective on hate speech and things like this versus the United States. Gun rights, for instance. That harsh journey, it killed the weak. Or I don't even think the people were weak who did it. They were all very strong people to make that decision.
My God. So anyway, so you can see where he's going with this, right? And what that did, it reminded me of this good old-fashioned Monty Python sketch. Remember this?
30 years ago, we'd all be sitting here drinking Chateau de Chasselet, eh?
Them days, we're glad to have the price of a cup of tea.
Aye, a cup of cold tea. Without milk or sugar.
Or tea. In a cracked cup and all.
Oh, we never used to have a cup. We used to have to drink out of a roll-up newspaper.
The best.
You hear that, right? They didn't know life was just so hard. We don't know how it is
Today, you have people who are like, I need if I don't have a TV, 2 weeks vacation, then I'm not doing well.
Oh my God. Somebody doesn't want to work themselves to death. They would like to go away with their family and for themselves from the job for 2 weeks. Oh my God. Tim, how are those $10 million from Russia tasting right now?
Now, don't get me wrong, owning a house is important. But back then, you'd walk into the woods and you didn't have a house. And to have one, you had to put sticks and leaves together.
Yeah, you could actually go anywhere and then you could build yourself a home. We tear up homeless encampments when they make their home in the woods, right? Anyway, we can go back and forth with this. This guy is the worst. He's a hypocrite. He's a millionaire. At least he doesn't worry about money. He doesn't worry about where his house being taken away from him, but he doesn't think that you are working hard enough. He doesn't think you deserve a vacation. He doesn't think you deserve a good paying job that can afford you food and housing and healthcare and education and clothes for your children. That is too much to ask for if you live in Tim Pool's world. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.